Hey guys, good morning on October 6th, 2019. Just woke up to hear the sad news that rock drummer legend Ginger Baker has died at age 80, and he just celebrated his 80th birthday a couple of weeks ago and has been in the hospital, and his family announced that he had been critically ill, so this was not a huge surprise. I'll go over real quickly. If you don't know that much about Ginger Baker, you probably should. One of the first original rock drummers, and he actually didn't like being called a rock drummer. He liked being called a jazz drummer. He's most well known for the band Cream. I've got most of their records here. This one happens to have a really good picture of Ginger. That's why they called him Ginger, bright red hair. And they say that gingers, people with red hair, may have outgoing and explosive personalities. I don't know if that's really true, but he certainly did. He had a reputation for being very difficult to get along with, very angry, not a great band member to be with on tour, a lot of substance abuse problems. Interesting life, made a huge impact on the history of rock music, and had a long career after the breakup of Cream. So let's go through some of my Cream albums real quick. Where do we begin? How about the beginning? Fresh Cream. Fresh Cream is the beginning. Why do they call them Cream? Because they were a super group. They were supposed to be the cream of the crop of rock musicians. And there's Ginger wearing some kind of a funny Russian hat. Eric Clapton, of course, and Jack Bruce, who's already deceased, the bass player. Which tunes are on here? I Feel Free, and I'm So Glad, and Toad, and Rollin' and Tumblin', which is a Muddy Waters tune. What year? 1967 on Atlantic. This is an original old one. And what else do we have? Wheels of Fire, 2-record set with a beautiful silver foil and the beautiful artwork. Psychedelic period. Lots of details in there. You could spend an hour going into all the details and the artwork and the eyeballs and the... It's a total LSD trip of a cover. What tunes are on here? White Room, Warthog, Politician, Born Under a Bad Sign, Crossroads, Spoonful, Crossroads. Was that a Robert Johnson tune? Taking the blues and electrifying it with big amps and big distortion and loud drums. That's what Cream was really all about. Kind of the first heavy metal group, as you may know. Live Cream, White Room, Politician, Tales of Brave Ulysses, Sunshine of Your Love. How could we forget that one? Mega group of the 60s. And then Cream Goodbye. I'm missing Disraeli Gears. Where's that? Cream Goodbye. And after Cream, he had a long career in other music, especially jazz. I only have one of those records from the jazz period. Mid-90s, Ginger Baker Trio. I'm a huge fan of the guitar player Bill Frisell. Talk about him on the channel a lot. So this one is Bill Frisell and monster bass player Charlie Hayden, who just passed away. Two guys that are truly full-on jazz musicians. And what tunes are on here? There's Thelonious Monk tune, Straight No Chaser, a lot of tunes I'm not familiar with. This really sounds like a Bill Frisell album. Ginger Baker, for an up-close look at what Ginger Baker was all about, there was a great documentary that came out in 2012 called Beware of Mr. Baker. And it's basically him living in this compound in South Africa, and he has an African wife and kids, and a journalist from Rolling Stone kind of worked his way onto the compound to interview him. He had to kind of use some subterfuge to even get over there and get onto his property, and he really wasn't welcome at all. But it's an insight into the personality of Mr. Baker. Beware of Mr. Baker, because he's carrying either a club or some kind of a shotgun or machine gun at all times, and don't F with him because he will F you up. That's pretty much Ginger Baker's MO for his entire life. There's all kinds of stories of him getting into ruckuses with musicians and fans, and people getting beat up and threatened with knives and hit, and That's just the personality of an explosive drummer. Well, let's focus on the positive. Oh, I forgot to mention Blind Faith, another super group of the 60s with Steve Winwood that Ginger was the drummer for. Ginger, like I said, really considered himself a jazz musician, a jazz drummer, and his biggest influence was jazz in the old days. Duke Ellington. He really brought this concept of double bass drum, those two big bass drums. Do we have a picture of that anywhere? For anybody who doesn't know what a double bass drum is, you probably all know what that means. That is not a double bass drum. Those are congas. I don't know if I got any photos. Double bass drum. I could have sworn it was on here somewhere. Yeah, right on the cover. Live Cream. Those two big round things. Two bass drums, not one bass drum, side by side, and then you control it with two different foot pedals. He really borrowed that idea from the Duke Ellington band. And Duke Ellington drummers had the double bass drum long ago. That goes back into the 20s and 30s. So, two pedals on two bass drums and then another pedal on a hi-hat, and you really have to have very, very fancy footwork to keep those two bass drums and hi-hat going side by side. His style was big, loud, cacophonous, tribal, African, jazzy. He made a big noise, big pounding beat. That's kind of what he's famous for. The headline on, I think it was the New York Post, said rock drummer Colossus of Cream dies at age 80. Colossus is a good word for him. Big man, big sound, huge influence on rock drumming, and we're sorry to see him go at age 80, but please do check out that documentary, Beware of Mr. Baker. It's available for free on YouTube, and I didn't really talk about all the other stuff that he did. The Ginger Baker Air Force, he did a lot of smaller, jazzier projects throughout his last several decades that I'm not that familiar with, but super interesting guy and great influence on rock drumming. So, Ginger Baker, sorry to see you go at age 80, and thanks for watching, guys.